how's it going? So today we're going to look at the trailer for episode 7 of season 2 of House of the Dragon, and we're going to look at some of the preview photos too afterwards. Okay, so the first shot that we get in the trailer is this one that we got in all the previews of Cyrax and Sea Smoke, and then we have Rhaenyra here, and this is going to be Adam of Hull. And Rhaenyra is saying, "You stand with the dragon of House Targaryen." So obviously we seen at the end of the last episode that she flew off to see who had claimed Sea Smoke, and Sea Smoke and Adam have so kindly landed on this beach to treat with them. So she says, "You stand with the dragon of House Targaryen," which I thought was very, very interesting to me the first time I seen this trailer, because this is not a dragon of House Targaryen, this is a dragon of House Velaryon, and she is about to find out very, very quickly that Adam is also of House Velaryon, and so realistically has more claim to this dragon than she does. Now, in one of the last videos that I put out, probably like the mid-season, I was talking about this whole idea of, now that they've made it so that the Hull brothers are Corlys's sons, how are they going to ride dragons? Because they do not have Targaryen blood. They have Velaryon blood, which is still from Old Valyria, but you know, we've been led to understand that they're not a dragon riding family, whereas the Targaryens are. And so it seems that they may be going in the direction that the dragons can choose to bond with someone of the same household. Now, we also know that dragons cannot be owned by a particular household, because we've seen that Aemond was able to claim Vhagar, so dragons do not have a particular innate loyalty to a household. So even for her to say that, you know, this dragon belongs to House Targaryen, it just shows how limited the scope is, and that she's expecting the loyalty of these beasts of Old Valyria, that I think she has a very limited understanding at this point in time of the dragon bond, just as we all do. But I think it's just been oversimplified for her, and especially in the sense that her and Jasper are just looking for noble houses, as if these dragons are going to care about nobility. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this conversation goes down. I think she's going to have a lot of realizations about her own classism, and yeah, it's going to open up interesting conversations about legitimacy. Wow, look at him, he's beautiful, big snowy boy. Also, Adam Velaryon, possibly one of the most beautiful men that has ever been on this franchise. Was no one going to tell me that he was Irish? Useless, the laddies. Okay, and then she asks, "What do you want?" And we have seen in the past couple episodes that the Hull brothers have been, you know, we've been seeing snippets of their interactions with each other, and, you know, getting a bit of character analysis that way. We have been seeing that of the two brothers, Adam is the more ambitious, is that Velaryon ambition that we've seen so much of. And I imagine that he is either going to request that he and his brother be legitimized, and it already is kind of going in that direction. I mean, we see a shot of his brother at the end of the trailer, and obviously he's been made first mate by Corlys, and he is decked out in the Velaryon sigil. So at some stage in this next episode, I imagine that conversation is going to come up, whether it be here or between his brother and Corlys. But I imagine he's going to be asking for legitimization or some sort of title, you know, the official Velaryon name, possibly more, possibly some sort of land. It's unclear, but he's definitely going to be making his requests at this point. And Rhaenyra is really going to have to grant whatever he wishes, because she needs those dragons, and she knows that Sea Smoke was probably the only one that she could really, really rely on, and that Vermithor and Silverwing are going to be a bit more of loose cannons, and the 3 wild dragons are going to be even more so again. So she really needs Sea Smoke and Sea Smoke's chosen rider. Alicent Hightower saying, "All my life I have endeavoured to serve both my house and the realm," and we see this forested area that she is then walking through in her lovely blue floral cloak. You can't really see it very well here, but in some of the later photos, the preview photos that we're going to look at, you'll be able to see it better. But it's interesting that she's changed from her Hightower green, you know, she's talking here about always wanting to serve her house, she's changed to this blue floral cloak, and she was obviously wearing blue florals earlier on in season 1. you know, when she was younger and she was still donning her innocence. But something that I found interesting was she's now wearing these blue florals, and House Florent, her mother's house, has blue flowers all across the sigil. So again, I'm working on some sigil sessions here even now. So a red fox and a circle of blue flowers on ermine. So interesting. It's like a little reference to her mother when she's questioning the actions of her household and all that she's done in justification and in dedication to her household, and how it has never really served her, it hasn't paid off for her or really anyone else. So she might be wavering with her Hightower loyalty, especially seeing what her children have done with their legacy. So we see her walking through this area, and at the start, whenever we seen clips of this in the initial like season 2 trailer, a lot of people were thinking that this was going to be some sort of dream sequence, because we knew that there was going to be a lot of that this season. But I don't know if it will be. I don't know if she would have the opportunity to have some sort of dream sequence like this written into things, but also where would she find the opportunity to just roam away from the castle? Has it really gotten to the point where now that she's been removed from the council and, you know, her sons have very much taken over and the council has been reduced in its capacity so much, have people really just lost sight of Alicent? Are people just not paying attention to her in any way, shape or form, to the point where the Dowager Queen can literally walk out of the capital into this woods, and King's Woods possibly, and just roam around and then end up in a lake? Also, I think it's interesting the syntax of this sentence. She talks about how she's endeavoured to serve both her house and the realm, and my house comes before the realm, and we can definitely see in her decisions that she has always put the needs of her house over the needs of the realm, given the fact that she put either of her two less than savoury sons on the throne. But sure, or in a seat of power, sorry, because obviously Aemon is not allowed to sit in the throne as Prince Regent. So then we see her, she's obviously removed her blue floral cloak, and she is now just standing in the middle of this lake. There's a lot of mist and eeriness in the background, and it really seems like they're setting up for this to be quite a sinister scene. A lot of people think this might be a suicide attempt from the Queen Dowager. We are yet to see. Also, supposedly this is all her real hair. How mad is that? What a woman. Or maybe not all her real hair, but she doesn't wear a wig. And somehow none of it matters. So she's speaking to someone here. I'm going to imagine that she's speaking to Larys because Cole has been sent off to Harrenhal. She's possibly speaking to Aegon, but I don't know. I doubt it. So I imagine she's probably talking to Larys, and she looks well and truly fed up now that she's lost, you know, a lot of the people. She's lost her father, who's supposedly coming back, but nobody can get a hold of him. She's very much lost Aegon. Helena, we love her so much. She's our little dragonfly, but she is not the most in tune with her family, in terms of just conversing with them and actually physically being with them. And obviously Aemon is a war tyrant, and she can't trust Larys, but she doesn't really have anybody else that she can speak to, because she's very much kept up in the Red Keep, like a princess in the Tower, and she doesn't really have anyone else she can talk to. So I imagine that's who she's speaking to here. Okay, so there we go. Tully sigil. It does seem to me that you've made rather a mess here. This is, of course, Oscar Tully, who is coming to speak with Daemon. There we go. Obviously now that his grandsire has passed, Lord Grover Tully, this is now Lord Oscar Tully. Daemon's getting a good scolding from this kid. And after his transgressions of asking Oscar to kill his grandfather and speed along his inheritance, I feel like that might have made this relationship a bit more difficult, you know, than it would have been if Daemon had have just maybe treated with him like a normal human being in their last encounter. But I'm glad Oscar's given him a bit of a hard time. He deserves it. It does seem to me that you've made rather a mess here, and then it's also intercut with this scene of him holding Viserys's crown, which is obviously another dream sequence, probably going to be the end of them now. I imagine he has now got this in his hands and he's considering whether or not he actually wants the crown, wants the throne, wants kinghood. Obviously this is the crown that his brother wore and he coveted it, supposedly, according to these dreams. And so had this jealousy of his brother, had this rivalry with his brother. But then he kind of reconciled that in the last episode and realised his transgressions. And also this is the crown that Rhaenyra now wears. So he might be reflecting upon his relationship with Rhaenyra and wanting to improve it, hopefully to God, because this man has to start being a better husband at some stage. Okay, and now we have, this is the heart tree at Harrenhal, and we have the riverlords who are all gathering together here. These are all the vassals to House Tully, so they'll all be gathering with Oscar Tully to discuss whether or not they're going to agree to join Daemon and fight for the black side in this war. So obviously there's going to be some intense debating and discussion happening here. Obviously we have this scene from the last clip saying, whose side are you on? Because it was pretty well known that Grover Tully was a staunch supporter of the Greens, but that Oscar Tully and, you know, the rest of the Tullys that were younger were kind of more sympathetic to Rhaenyra's side. But now obviously he has a bit of friction here with Daemon that they have to work through. So again, there we go. Everyone's standing around looking at their new liege lord, all in front of the heart tree of Harrenhal. And there we go, Lady Mallister stepping forward. Now we have some proper heraldry here of the eagle on what was supposed to, well, I suppose it's indigo, isn't it? So the eagle on indigo, and we have Lady Mallister coming forward saying that the old ways call for justice. And there's a lot of appealing to the old gods in this this Harrenhal Riverlords section of the story, which is interesting because everywhere else, you know, in King's Landing, Alicent is praying and pleading to the new gods, to the Faith of the Seven, to grant her some sort of salvation for the decisions that she's made and her role in this war, and she is just biting at the altar rails. And then obviously over in Dragonstone we have this whole idea that the dragons are gods, and that's really being reinforced also in the streets of King's Landing. So, you know, both sides of the Targaryen faction are essentially pushing this whole idea of dragons as gods and dragon riders as gods. But then here, that doesn't really stand. Caraxes is just kind of kicking around. He's having a good time. But Daemon is getting tormented by the old gods with these visions, with his weirwood bed, with Alice Rivers, who's clearly of the old ways herself, and all the Riverlords, who are very much staunchly in support of the old ways, as we can see here. So Lady Mallister demanding that the old ways call for justice. Daemon's status as a god, as a dragon rider, these dragons as gods, doesn't really mean much to them. They are demanding justice in the ways of their faith. And also, who decided Lady Mallister was a spokesperson for the old ways? I mean, sure. I'm sure they do call for justice, but do the Blackwoods not also follow the old gods? Well, we shall see what type of justice is demanded of them. And then we see Daemon picking up Dark Sister. Hold on. Oh, it's okay. It was in its scabbard. I thought that it was just like a bare blade that he goes to pick up there. But Daemon picks up Dark Sister. Looks like he's made a decision about whatever he was contemplating, and I imagine it's going to be the decision to deliver this justice on behalf of his queen to get an army. So I think this is probably going to be the scene that we've seen in the trailer for season 2, where he is in front of the heart tree at Harrenhal and he is swinging his sword to pass the sentence of justice. And then we see this Green Council scene, and again, very few people here now. He has gotten rid of a lot of his allies, and again we're talking about faith, the faith of the Seven, always watching over those in King's Landing. But here we have the Prince Regent Aemon, we have Larys, who He's really on no one's side, is he? And then we have Ironrod and Grandmaster Orwell, who again is not really on anybody's side. He is there trying to look after Aegon, and he has the unsavoury task of having to deal with Prince Regent Aemond on top of that, who is passing around mild threats constantly, steadily. So in this we get Ironrod saying Prince Daeron's dragon has taken the wing. So that is Tessarion, beautiful blue queen, who we will probably not see till season 3, I wouldn't imagine. I don't imagine we're going to see Prince Daeron this season either. I think they're just setting up, because he is supposed to be 16 in this, they were saying, and so I don't imagine they're going to cast a young actor just to wait another 2 years to bring out, you know, season 3, because obviously he is going to have aged significantly compared to the other characters who are older already. So I imagine we're probably going to either get a shot of him flying from behind or something in episode 8, or we are not going to get anything of him. I'll be very impressed if we do. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I just don't know logistically if they'll do that. So Prince Daeron's dragon has taken the wing. This is obviously going to give the Hightowers the advantage of another dragon, which obviously Rhaenyra's side has also got another dragon rider in the previous episode. So, you know, currently they're stacking them up. But we're going to be seeing a lot of people go over to Dragonstone to try and claim some of these riderless dragons as well. So we'll have to see how that goes. Oh my god. So the Hightower host will be unstoppable. And Larys is looking very concerned in this shot here. Towards the head of the table, towards Prince Aemond. So I wonder what an undergod he said to provoke Larys of all people to have a reaction like this. I imagine it would take a lot to get a look this concerned and this disgusted out of Larys Strong, but who knows. The Hightower host will be unstoppable. And now this doesn't mean in general they'll be unstoppable in the war just because we have now got another small dragon on their side. This is in terms of them coming through the Reach and joining with the rest of their army. So now that they have a dragon and there are no dragons in the Reach, no one can stop them, because the dragon concentration is all obviously around the capital, around Dragonstone and around Harrenhal and the Vale, but they don't know that. Okay, now these scenes, like, what under God is going on? Because so Prince Aemond is galloping through the streets. There are all these people running like mad in the background. One of, I assume this is a Kingsguard, is grabbing someone. So there's clearly discord occurring, and he is running somewhere with a swiftness. So I was thinking either, you know, if people are talking about this whole Alicent's having a suicide attempt, people are talking about, oh, maybe he's run to her. I don't know if he is. I think he might be running through the streets of King's Landing while people are trying to flee on those boats, and he is going to make some big scary attempt to stop them, maybe. Or maybe he's running to Alicent, because there is a shot, I think, later on where he's changed location but he's still riding on the horse. So I don't know, it's unclear. It's very, very strange to see him on a horse. Just so used to seeing him on Vhagar, who's so colossal, you know. Seeing him on a horse, just, it's very uncanny valley. But then we have the shot of House Targaryen is the blood of the dragon, and this is, you know, it's got this scene here of Rhaenyra and Mysaria and one of her Queen's Guard, but speaking here is Jace. So Jace is saying House Targaryen is the blood of the dragon. If any may lay claim to it, what are we then? And obviously he is expressing his insecurity here, that he recognises that he is an illegitimate son, and so by Adam of Hull being an illegitimate son and being able to lay claim to a dragon, it calls him to question his legitimacy as well, because a lot of, you know, the reasoning for Rhaenyra making sure that, like, the eggs were placed on with their sons and that they were dragon riders and they were learning High Valyrian was all to do with the fact that she wanted them to present as legitimate as possible, and these were their signs of legitimacy. And so if he considers his dragon riding to be a sign of his legitimacy, then obviously if Corlys's illegitimate children are able to ride dragons, it will call him into question again, which obviously wouldn't be a great thing for the succession of the throne, which they're currently fighting for. And in this shot we see these boats that Rhaenyra sent into King's Landing with her gift, those food parcels, and they are now bringing people to Dragonstone. And it's unclear whether they're coming just because they wanted to flee King's Landing anyway, and they obviously recognise that if Rhaenyra is sending all this food, there must be an abundance on Dragonstone, or whether there's been some sort of call from Alinda Massey that Rhaenyra is looking for dragon riders, common born people that may have some form of Targaryen blood or Valyrian blood. So they could be coming for that reason. They could be coming to try out as dragon seeds. So one of the two. But yeah, it actually seemed in that clip that there's a lot of white-haired people coming down here, so it might be the latter. Yeah, all running into the boats. And it looks like they're being assisted by people who are armed as well, so I imagine this is going to be Cyrax and Seasmoke coming back, and Jace is going to be strapping off, infuriated. That's kind of his thing. And Rhaenyra says, thousands will die over the top of this clip of all these small folk coming into Dragonstone, presumably to have their dragon tryouts, which is ironic. Thousands of small folk will die, and it's, spoken over the top of this clip, showing small folk coming into the castle. I'm interested to see what's happening with Rhaenyra and Mysaria in the next episode, if we're going to acknowledge the kiss at all, or if it's just going to be played off as like, oh, it was something that just happened in the heat of the moment. I mean, girlies, just, we have these encounters sometimes, it's fine. Okay, so here we go. We have, you can't really see it very well here, but there are some of these shots better on Twitter if you want to check them out, where people have upped the exposure and stuff in the clothes. But this is Alan of Hull, who Corlys has raised to his first mate on his ship, and he is now decked out in the Valyrian gear. And I want to know if this is common practice for the first mate to be absolutely decked out and wearing the sigil of the Valyrians on his chest, or if this is some sort of scene where he's been legitimized and now he can don the sigil on his chest. Or is it, because obviously we've seen in the earlier clips of, these earlier clips here, you can see that those men do have the Mallister sigil on them, but it's unclear if they're family members who are there with Lady Mallister, or if they're some sort of soldier level. So yeah, we are either going to see some sort of legitimization, or this is just his new uniform for his new role. But yeah, he doesn't always look thrilled about this, does he? But very duty bound, quite respectable, but less opportunistic than his brother. With these dragons, peace will be restored. So the fact that we just had her say that thousands will die, as in die at the hand of the dragon and the dragon rider, and now she says with these dragons peace will be restored. So what type of notion of peace is that? What definition of peace is that if thousands have to die to restore it? It's a very complicated situation, and it's hard to look at it morally. See, can you tell that I specialised in conflict studies in my master's degree? So, trying to deduce the meaning of every single word that they say, in terms of moral definition. And this is spoken over this clip of Alan, a clip of Aemond, and then this final shot of Rhaenyra with the colossal Vermithor, large and formidable, standing behind her and lowering his head, indicating that he is ready to sample some new riders and roast others. So, I mean, Rhaenyra has her back turned to him. She is clearly not afraid of him. But, I mean, if she thought what happened with Stefan was bad, she might want to consider turning her back on this boyo. So then, we have this clip of Alinda, right? And obviously we have a lot of these city watchmen, so the gold cloaks, and they are seemingly still working with Mysaria, or still owe debts to Mysaria in some way, shape or form, because she was allowed into the city by one of these men, and now it seems like they're loading up these carts with something. So it'll be interesting to see. This is presumably in relation to bringing people back to Dragonstone. And there we go. We have one of the gold cloaks rubbing down these signs. It's unclear whether this is just propaganda for Rhaenyra with the black and red in the dragon sigil, or whether this is going to be some type of call for dragon seeds. Anybody interested to come to, because this is going to be one of the gates here. If it's come here, go out, we're going to take to the boats that have been left and we're going to make our way to Dragonstone, but we will find out. Yeah, this is what I mean. It's so jarring. So jarring to see him on a horse. Whose horse is this? It's clear he doesn't have like a royal horse, and it hasn't even got armor on it, so maybe he is going to Alicent, because obviously we have all this greenery in the background, but it's so bizarre. This feels more dreamlike than Alicent going into the woods and walking into a lake. Yeah, and then we have Club of Rhaenyra. Are these her banners behind her? They look odd. We have Rhaena leaving the Vale. Presumably this is all making its way to the Gay Abandon to go to Pentos with Reggio. But she looks back, and it's unclear whether she's going to be looking back and looking at a dragon, or a suggestion that a dragon has been there, or whether she's going to be looking back because she doesn't want to go to Pentos. I don't know if they're going to introduce this dragon in the next episode, or if they're going to save it for the finale and have a nice controversial end to the season. But I imagine they're going to take this somewhere in the next 2 episodes, so who knows? We could see all 3 other dragons in the next episode, if they feel like being really generous. And then obviously, ending every trailer out with beautiful big shot of Vhagar. So maybe Aemon starts making his way to Harrenhal by the end of this, which seems pretty early, but we'll see. Okay, yeah, that's us. So now we're gonna look at some of the promo photos that were shared. Alright, so these are our promo photos that House of the Dragon shared. And the first one is Rhaenyra and Syrax. Look at this silly little face. Like, how are we supposed to be scared of that? How is that supposed to be the Queen's dragon? So silly. Look at her just shouting. Rhaenyra looking very serious about all this. And this is what I mean about the blue floral print. So it really is given very much House Florent. But yeah, she literally seems like she's out in the middle of nowhere. So I really don't know if it's going to be some sort of vision, or if she is just fled the capital to go for a little dip in the lake. And then Jace just serving an absolute perfect straight 10 face card as usual, sitting pouting about something. I'm at the mercy of brown-eyed men, sorry. And then we have Larys, and he's looking a bit startled still, but I imagine this is probably in talking to Aegon. I'd like to see more interactions between he and Aegon in this episode, just because they had such a good setup in the last episode. So that is the height of the promo photos we got from this. But we also have this one, right? And when I seen this, the first place my mind went, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? And like, I don't know if it's just right. So part of my job is looking at like old military and paramilitary uniforms and stuff, and weaponry and stuff. But a lot of uniforms be kicking about, a lot of weaponry be kicking about. So I don't know if it's just because of this like Sam Brown belt thing that he's got going on here, that he's got all his weaponry strapped to. If that just, you know, as soon as I seen it, I was just like, ugh, right, okay. And then these big prominent like folded and the lapels, I don't know. Anyway, this, even the tunic is very like shape wise, you know what I mean? So that was initially where my mind went, give him real like dictator vibes, and in terms of Israel obviously. So this is pretty standard to see him wearing. Is this Blackfire? I think this might be Blackfire. So he swiped the cat's paw dagger and seemingly took Blackfire as well. I think that's very much against what is acceptable in terms of a Prince Regent working within the boundaries of the role. I think he might be overstepping just a little tiny bit. But but sure, it wouldn't be like him. So yeah, that is what I thought of all those photos. And really, really interested to see what this is going to be about. And also of Aemond riding through the streets of King's Landing. I think everything that's going on in Dragonstone, we pretty much know what's going to be happening. Just because obviously this is going to be the payoff of the dragon seeds. But it's so hard to say what's going to be happening in Harrenhal and in King's Landing. And also if we're going to see anything that's happening out around the High Tower. It's going to be interesting. But yeah, I think the next episode's probably going to be a pretty big build up, and we are potentially going to get another scene of conflict in the last episode. Interesting that we didn't see anything about the Lannisters here, even though they're clearly making a whole song and dance in the last episode. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how Daemon gets on after all of his transgressions, and see if he has to actually pay for those now. Like this whole arc in Harrenhal seems to be him having to pay for misdeeds, and so I think this might humble him a whole lot in this next episode. And the scene of him grabbing a sword is probably going to lead to the execution in front of the heart tree, and I imagine it's probably going to be our poor guy Willem Blackwood on the chopping block. Can't see it being anyone else. So we'll see. That's what he gets for flying the Targaryen banners, when he was explicitly told you can go and do these things where we cannot, and he still went and took the banners. So what are we supposed to do with that? So yeah, I'm really excited for the next episode. Some people were talking about doing like a reaction to it. I am not sure really how I would do that, because normally I watch the episode and then I watch it on HBO, so I stay up to like 2 in the morning to watch it, and then I let it run like a couple of times, like another 1 or 2 viewings of it. And while I'm doing that, I'll watch the after shows. So I usually watch David Lightbringer's after show with Nettles and Grey Waste Tim. So I don't know how I would go about filming that. I would probably have to film the first, like the initial reaction and the first watch, just so that you wouldn't have the sound in the background of the other podcast, or of the other so you wouldn't have the sound in the background of the after shows going. But I don't know, I might try and figure it out, because it might be fun doing that for the penultimate and the last episode of the season. And then obviously at the end of the season we're going to do all of the thematic videos, character videos, all the other stuff that I wanted to get done during the actual airing in the past couple of weeks. But obviously getting 2 or 3 videos out a week was already a lot, working full time, you know. So it's the editing takes forever. So that being said, I need to go and edit this now. And thank you so much for anybody who has stuck around this long. Thank you everyone for watching. And yeah, let's get a conversation going in the comments section. What do we think's happening in this next episode? Yeah, let me know what you think. And I'll see you hopefully on Monday, maybe on Tuesday. We'll see. I'll see you soon.